Hey everyone, I'm your host Adrian. We do content like this weekly, so hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified. If you want more content like this, click the like button and please leave a comment. Thanks again for watching.
Thank you for inviting me today. I appreciate it. For Rupa Health, you, Emily, setting this up, and Adrian. It takes a lot of work to make these seminars work properly, and I appreciate that. Believe me, because I speak readily several times a month in different areas, and I appreciate. I've done this a long time. I'm going to try to make today as clinically relevant as possible, and not just to understand why allergy testing, where allergy testing, but what are you going to do with the information? I'm one of these people that if you can't take the information, apply it clinically, what good is it? This is not a philosophical discussion. It is one that will help you to make appropriate choices for your patients/clients in doing the testing appropriately and then reacting to it. I always said there's no reason to do a test if you don't have something you could do with it. If, for example, if you can imagine going to a doctor, they do a chest x-ray on you and they throw the chest x-ray into a chart, never do anything with it. What a waste of radiation, what a waste of time, money, etc. So I want to try to bridge the gap in allergy testing for you. I'm pleased to be here because of you and Access Laboratories bringing me to the table. Before I share my screen, I just want to make it clear that allergies can occur from three specific methods. One is inhaling them. Two is touching it, a contact allergy. And the third is swallowing the particular thing that the body feels is foreign. So we're going to look particularly today to food allergy because that's our topic, but recognize there's others. In addition, before we start, you should be aware there are several types of allergic reactions. Actually, these hypersensitive, meaning there's reactions of the immune system that are very aggressive, so to speak, occur pretty much in four categories, which you may or may not have heard of. One of them happens to be what they call the IgE. And we're going to take time in that, but that's an immediate reaction. That's anaphylaxis. Person gets stung by a bee and they go down. That would be a type 1 reaction. There are type 2 and type 3 that vary between a transfusion, like in a type 2 reaction, a blood transfusion reaction, to a type 3 and 4 considered often a delayed hypersensitive reaction. But these are cytotoxic reactions to the things that we're exposed to that the body sees as foreign. And it ranges from rheumatoid arthritis falls into these categories, lupus falls into these categories, etc. And when I mentioned before, like getting stung by a bee, I should ask you, Emily, what does a person or a human with allergies have in common with the bees? They both have hives. Okay, we'll go from there. All right, let me share my screen with you, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. I know that's a dumb joke. Sorry, Emily, but I thought it would be okay for this. And let me share my screen, and you tell me. Hopefully, I'll see you nod if you can see it. Can you see this? And
You're golden. Yes, looks great.
I like being golden. Okay. So this particular webinar is going to be titled Allergy Testing from a Functional Approach. To me, everything is about functionality. How does the body work? It's okay to know there's an allergy, but what happens? And if you know what happens, then you can think out of the box of what you need to do next. So let me first tell you, I know this is not a CME program, but I always like to tell everyone I am a consultant. I am the chief outside consultant for Access Laboratories, and we will be featuring their test today, of course. And for a compounding pharmacy and for Light USA, I'm a chief medical officer, which is not germane to today at all, but the access is for sure. So why are there so many allergens out there? That would be a good question to ask because your patients and clients are going to ask you, why do I have this problem? Why does this problem not been yesterday and it's today? Why was it I was fine 2 years ago and I'm not today? If you consider that you're exposed to more than 80,000 chemicals a day, plus they add a good 2,000 to 3,000 chemicals per year. Take other toxins, and we could talk about them on and on. For example, phthalates, which you've heard about, plastics and everything else, from the chemicals you put on your body to the things that you use to clean your home. And then you add to that 1 billion pounds of pesticides per year. You wonder why the immune system becomes aggravated and begins to see things that are simple, things that it should never see, as an allergic or allergen. So what happens when the immune system does that? As you see, I wrote problems galore for your patient. Now, here's where you'll need to come in to be able to separate what is true allergy from not. But let's go into this now. The very first thing I want to tell you is that allergy testing is not for everyone. You could probably say, hey, Mitch, why in the world would you bring up something of this nature? Because there are many companies out there that made a living of running around telling you should do allergy testing, put it in your office, billing insurance, billing patients, etc. It's unfair for many reasons. Not everyone needs allergy testing. There is population, obviously, that does, but it's not for everyone. At any time you think that any test is pretty much for everybody, you need to relook at your thoughts and relook at what you're doing. There have been many people, including those who I've counseled. I literally talk to hundreds of physicians and healthcare providers a month. And I've told other people, do not do this. And of course, when the feds came in and they got in trouble, then it was, oh, but they were convinced and still were that doing any and all testing is okay. It's not. You need to think, is there a good clinical reason for me to do this on a patient? And if you consider what we're going to learn today, it's going to make all the sense in the world to you. Okay. So let's talk of some of the symptoms that someone could come in with. Now, these symptoms are pretty far and broad, and you could easily say, gosh, this fits a dozen other things. I could take any one of these symptoms and give you 20 other disease areas that can cause this problem. But when you start to overlap and you've looked into the patient and you're not getting answers, you can look at this. The simple thing I could have put here, which everyone knows, oh, if you have a stuffy nose, a runny nose, you have a cough, you have asthma, you have a wheeze, then you could say, oh yeah, that must be allergy. If I eat a peanut, oh my gosh, you're wheezing. Obviously, it's obvious, but most allergy is not obvious. And of these 20 or so symptoms, you should know one of the most important things, and that is the number one constitutional symptom of allergy is this: fatigue. When people come to you, one thing people come for all the time is fatigue. So everybody, okay, fatigue, it's your age and the general physician population. For those of us like the ones watching today, it's more into what else could be doing. Could it be their hormones? Yes, it can be, of course. Could it be they have Epstein-Barr virus? Yes, of course. Could it be they have an autoimmune disease? Yes, of course. But it's somewhere, someplace, there is a crossover between all these things occurring. You have to think a little differently. When I train physicians and healthcare providers, the one important fact that you should always remember is things are not linear in the human body. We think linearly. We think, oh, we go to grade school, we go to high school, we go to whatever school we're going to learn the things that we're learning currently. It does not work that way in the human body. We think it's always A to B to C to D. It doesn't work that way. A can go to Z in a chemical reaction. Z can go back to F, F back to D. And so these have to be considered. So when you look at these symptoms, should you have in your mind, is it potential that they have these other things? Some of them are more self-evident than others. For example, dark circles under the eyes are often allergy. The reason they're an allergic sign is because the same veins that drain the nose drain the eyes. So you get backpack pressure like a cesspool, and it backs up and people get the dark circles under their eyes. So that's an obvious one. Eczema is often an obvious one, but the other ones on this, maybe not. So start to think about, they have fatigue, they have this, and start putting together this concept. You'll have the slides so you can help you clinically. Let's go into it a little further and get some concepts of what this is about. So there are 3 types of food problems that one may have. The first one is food sensitivity. The next, food allergy, the food intolerance. let's go first to food allergy. Food allergy is the person you know that eats a peanut and boom, they have anaphylactic reaction. They lose their blood pressure. They become hypotensive. Their blood pressure goes down. They are an emergency. And you hope in a patient like that you have epinephrine, a shot of epinephrine or adrenaline to give them to save their life. These symptoms are quick occurring. They can literally close the throat off in a matter of minutes and up to 2 hours. The interesting part of that also, food allergy has a second peak. So if you treat someone with food allergy and they have an initial reaction here, there is often a delayed reaction to up to 12 hours later. And hence the reason a lot of the treatment is not only based in the acute portion, but knowing that there will be a recrudescence later on in that day. That is IgE mediated. Food allergy testing that's looking for a specific problem that is aggressive, that causes someone's lip to grow up and blow up huge, which we call angineurotic edema, that would require food allergy testing or IgE. Then there's something called a food intolerance. I'll skip to that because we're going to spend most time in food sensitivity. In the food tolerance area, these are things that perhaps give you those digestive things. I know if I eat a banana, oh my gosh, doc, I get this gassy. It may not specifically be a allergy or sensitivity. It may be just some of the components that make up that specific food create and give that person some of the problems that they're experiencing. We're going to spend a good portion of our context today in this, because that's the one that is people are sensitive to, that cause these other issues that you see on the screen. They don't happen to happen right away. They can happen one day and not a next day, but I'll make that clear why that happens. It can happen more aggressively one day, but not the next. And that should be self-evident to you as we go on. And also it's something that does specifically interfere with that patient's immune response overall. That's where we're going to take this at this moment. So the gold standard for food allergy testing used to be an oral challenge. And some say, I do that. I'll give them, let's say, I'll take some fish. I'll have them eat a piece of fish in front of me, and I can check to see if they break out in hives or if they get throat closure, or if their heart rate, we test it. If it goes up more than 10 beats in a very short period of time. And that's the way, by the way, we used to do it years and years ago before we had anything that was concrete. Of course, this holds and is fraught with danger. You give someone allergy testing. It's one thing to give them a slightly faster heart rate, tachycardia. It's another problem to have them end up on the floor. And so the endpoints to be determining how aggressive or is this a problem may not be self-evident in the short period of time that you're doing the testing with them. Number two, it could be actually a dangerous procedure and basically not as accurate as what we can do nowadays. But you should know what it was years ago. And people may say to you, when I eat this particular food, you know what? I get this hard, I get sweaty, I get nauseous. And then you're starting to think, wait, they did the gold standard on themselves, and now you need to become more specific. You should know the difference between IgG and IgT testing. And we started to approach that a few slides ago. IgE is immediate. This is the allergy or testing that you're doing to look for someone that has, and not a food sensitivity, but actual food allergy. This is the person, they eat chocolate and their lip blows up to the size of a house for 3 or 4 days. This is the same person who has a glass of milk and the next thing you know, not only they're vomiting, but they can't breathe. So food testing, food allergy testing should be reserved for IgE only people. If you do not believe that someone has a actual acute reaction to a specific food, this would not be appropriate test. However, if you believe that there are a set of circumstances that are leading to the clinical picture that's been brought before you, Then the right testing is called food sensitivity testing, and sensitivity is IG mediated. And I'll show you that when I show you a report. Just remember, is it something you feel that's acute that could actually put that person's life in danger? Then you want to do this testing here, IgE. If it's more of a combination of things that's lending itself to a symptomatic clinical picture that's not in keeping with someone that's healthy, then it would be the food sensitivity testing. So there's something you should be aware of called the load phenomena, and this lends itself specifically to food sensitivity. Let's just say for a moment, and I'm sorry, I'm not a great drawer, but let's just say for a moment that someone is somewhat allergic to tomatoes, and they're allergic to lettuce, and they're allergic to bacon. Now, any one of them may give some sort of reaction, which you may or may not be aware. So let's say in this line, there are symptoms. So if you have tomato by itself on one day, and you have lettuce on another day, and you have bacon on another, you may not find that this person has symptoms. Now, we'll talk about there is still a problem with this patient, but it may not be quite evident from symptoms, a symptom perspective. But their load phenomena says when you take several things that you have sensitivity to and you add them together, if you give them tomato and you give them lettuce and you give them bacon on the same day, then you have a threshold where symptoms occur. This is a very key aspect of food sensitivity. It's also a key aspect for a clinician to be able to look at this and say, maybe I didn't see any specific symptoms, but that doesn't mean I still have a keen interest in food allergy testing them. ICG, of course, in this case, which we're talking about. Why are people allergic to the foods they eat the most? And by the way, you'll find that. You'll hear people say, hey, I eat that all the time. How can I have an allergy? What happens and often is you're probably aware when you eat a protein, for example, in a food, and if you don't masticate it well enough, you don't chew it well enough, you'll have fragments of proteins in your mouth and then in your gut. It just so happens that will affect your ability to digest. It also sends some other information to the immune system. So if you normally eat a carrot and a carrot's X, sorry, you can't see on this Y, and some there's just like an XY in the mix, the immune system may see that as abnormal. It may see it as foreign, and the immune system will attack it. And often the foods that we eat the most, we're talking, we're not eating as diligently, properly as we should. We're not chewing as well. After the age of 40, most women, if not even men, sooner or later after that, don't have enough acid in their stomach. It means they will not digest these foods properly. And when it's not, these fragments of these proteins now become foreign material to the human body. So you should get the message. What happens now is that immune system's going to say, hey, what do I need to do with this? Do you need to have symptoms to have a food allergy? I think by now, the folks listening know that's not the truth. You don't have to have actually symptom to have a food allergy. It's not necessarily. It can be a component of the other things going wrong. So even though you don't have any of the symptoms I showed you on the third slide, even though you don't have the nasal, you don't have the diarrhea, you don't have this, you could still have food allergy. And the only way you'll know is if you have a suspicion it is affecting the human as a whole, and that there is something that it will affect eventually, which we'll talk about in a moment. So why food skin testing is a problem? So if you think about it for a second, you think you take someone's arm and you put a little wheel underneath their skin like this, for those that have ever seen it, a tiny 0.1 wheel. And then about 20 minutes later, you measure it and see if it got bigger. It has pseudopods like this and it's red around it. And we call that positive. But when you put an allergen of food in the skin, you are testing IgE. So you could have all negative foods that you put in the skin, but that doesn't mean they don't have food allergy, because they could have that sensitivities, which is more likely than not than IgE. meaning that they do have sensitivities. And the only way you're going to know is to test for them. The other problem is the person putting that needle under, if they're not good with it, they in that self could be irritating to the skin and cause a wheal that looks like an allergy. If you don't run a control, and a control is like saline, if you put sodium chloride under the skin, you then could see if that person's just very sensitive to begin with. Some people, every little thing you put under there, even water, is going to create this type of reaction. So that would not be appropriate either. So skin testing for food allergy, for the most part, is not helpful for anyone that's listening. It's not helpful for me, and I don't believe that it's probably useful. When you talk about inhalant allergies, often they're mediated, obviously, through IgE. It's one thing, but for food, no good. The thing that we always need to bring into the mix here is the immune system. We have both an acquired immune system and we have an acute immune system. The acute immune system is one that will fight for you immediately without having prior recognition. So when you get exposed to a virus, for example, within a minute or two, up to 2 hours, there's a group of cells that will aggregate and go into battle for you if you keep that system healthy. On the acquired side, it's like having inoculation. You have inoculation, the body says, builds this IgG, and body remembers this. So if it ever comes back in your system, the body will clone these cells to go after that particular foreign substance. So when you think about that type of thing, simultaneously, you should be thinking about what does an allergen do to the immune system? The immune system actually occurs in three sort of general brackets that you can think of. One is a hypo-functioning immune system, which would be someone in late stage AIDS or late stage cancer. The immune system just worn out. It can't do any further. Then there is the far extreme, the other side, which is a hyperactive immune system. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. The allergy would fall into that area. And it also affects the middle column, which is the autoimmune column. And the autoimmune column is the body doesn't have the innate ability to recognize stuff. That's what autoimmunity is. The body's capability of recognizing itself is blunted. And once that happens, the body will start attacking your own body. And that's when you get autoimmune diseases we were talking about earlier, like rheumatoid and lupus, et cetera. There's about 84 different autoimmune diseases. I liken it often to what you can think of, and you can use this if you want, or you take whatever analogy you like for your clients. And that is when a person comes into their home at night, it's dark, you have a machine gun with you, and you hear something break. Without even knowing, you machine gun the whole house and find out it's only the cat that jumped off the table. That's what a hyperimmune system does. It's overactive. It is a Th1 T helper cell 1 state. And you can imagine why now this food sensitivity is becoming even more important to you, which we'll keep going into. Now you have a choice. Often you'll find companies will send you, if you're allergic to cherries, this and that, what do? Do you do a rotation diet or you do an avoidance diet? Most companies will tell you to rotate the diet is based upon the load phenomena that you saw before. If we don't eat too many of the things we're allergic to at one time, that person won't get symptoms. So, for example, if someone's allergic to these three things that we used before, so let's say they'll have tomato today and don't have it again for 4 days. Tomorrow, they'll have the bacon, and in 4 days, they don't have that again. And then they'll have the lettuce, and then 4 days don't have it. So there's such a large distance between when they're having this that they don't get that load phenomena, hence rotation diet. Now, I've been the medical consultant and also a chief consultant for several companies that have done allergies in the past. And companies I've told that I don't have anything to do with also, that the rotation diet may be good for someone who has serious symptoms, eczema, things like this, but it does nothing. For what? If you're thinking immune system, you're 100% right. Think about it. If I'm allergic to tomato, lettuce, and bacon, the fact that I get no symptoms, as I said earlier, doesn't mean a thing when it comes to what's happening in your immune system. The immune system nowadays are so blunted, it's not even funny. We could talk about that in our discussion later or whenever. However, if you eat this tomato, you're already having the immune system go, wait, that's foreign to me for whatever reason. That's a different story. It's foreign. So there is an immune response. Basically, you've taken the immune system and diverted it towards a tomato instead of towards a cancer or towards a invader, a bacteria or fungus or something like that. The next day you're doing lettuce, same diversion, and bacon, the same diversion. So you're never giving your immune system a full break. In my opinion, humble opinion, if you want to help people, you need to tell them to do avoidance. That's the key. They need to do complete avoidance of the things that come back for about 6 months. After 6 months, you could retest or start introducing these foods back in. Let me put it a different way so you understand. Everyone's immune system's under a heavy attack now. Whether you take immunizations or whether you took this vaccine or whether you have a food allergy or whether you have an autoimmune disease or whether you breathe all those things I showed you in the early component of this lecture, this immune system of ours is constantly being challenged. So why in the world would you ask someone just to rotate the diet because they don't get symptoms when you say, you know what, you need to avoid? You know what I say to my patients? I'm going to do food testing, but I'm going to tell you right now. The one thing I want you to know is there are people that rotate the diet. I don't. Your immune system is in trouble. And if you don't avoid this, all you're doing is challenging it every day. Don't bother doing it because if you know, you need to stay away from it. And I'm going to tell you right now that many of the things that you eat, as I showed earlier, are going to be impacted because we tend not to break them down good enough. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It's extremely important as a clinician that you stay in this category as far as I'm concerned. And every single company that I ever talk to, and they put their PhD on the phone with me, they go, you know what, Mitch, you're right. And I said, okay, am I right? And that's how you should be teaching people to do it. Now, when you do these tests, you should consider other tests, other things that can happen. There are many composite tests to do, but I brought up a few here, which I think are the proper things to do. Number one, there is a test called IgE total. So if you believe someone is having food allergens, then you should run the total IgE. It's a blood test. This is a blood test. You should definitely run a complete blood count because there is giveaways in it, like elevation of the eosinophils, one of the breakdowns of the differential. And they go up, particularly in allergies. Yes, they can go up in parasites as well, but it will give you an idea. And not only that, but the frontline fighters will also be affected. Severe allergy can increase your white blood cell count. So it does help to get a good idea of what's going on by doing this test. We talked about how ongoing allergy may and can or overlap with the autoimmunity. And if you do an ANA, then you're going to be able to determine, well, that's the major test, whether there may be some autoimmunity. I have to tell you, years ago, they always said autoimmune diseases were 8-1 female. And now you look and the men have caught up significantly. Not only that, but now I find 80% of just the general population, regardless of what I'm testing for, whatever their issue is, has a somewhat, maybe not high, but maybe a 1-40 to a 1-160 titer of the ANA. And the reason is because the immune systems are being challenged so heavily by everything that's going on in the air, the particles and everything else and everything, all the other things we discussed, that folks are having a hard time. And then you add to it cell phones and radiation, and the list goes on and on. So our bodies are being challenged. The immune system's rebelling, and we should see that. The other simple couple test is do one of the inflammatory markers, either C-reactive protein or an erythrocyte sedimentation rate. They're inexpensive. If they're elevated, it means, of course, that there's inflammation, and allergies cause inflammation. So you want to know if that's a problem, because pretty much all diseases, or the chronic ones, are all rooted in inflammatory disorder. I also put in here a good idea for you to at least look quickly at the vitamin D level. And you can say, wait, vitamin D? I know it's been reclassified, Mitch, as a hormone, but why for allergies would you do that? Because if the vitamin D level is not high enough, you're going to get autoimmunity much more readily, and the body's going to be more likely to fall. And we find that vitamin D, when it's a little bit higher, is lightly immunosuppressive. So someone that has an already turned on immune system and they have these allergies, if their vitamin D levels 33, 40, whatever, it's not going to be enough. And I like to keep my patients, in my opinion, between 60 and 100, sometimes pretty much my cancer patients on the high end of this. And lastly, to think about is if someone's having all this autoimmunity, is what's happening in their gut. I know many people look there, but the gut is a good place to look. A CDSA, an acronym, complete digestive stool analysis, will be helpful to help you determine whether or not there's something else going on. And there is something in a stool analysis that specifically tell you if it's pollen's causing the problem. And that's called, I can write this correctly, Charcot-Leyden crystals. If they see these in the stool, you can guarantee that this is an allergy going on. Most likely it is a food sensitivity or allergy. Then you should be aware of it. So now you're overlapping. You're doing a history. You're examining the patient. You're getting allergy sensitivity. You're looking at this simultaneously. It's putting a clinical picture together for you so that you can offer the best response for your patients. This is a sample report that comes from Access Labs. This is an IgE report. Now, to summarize so you remember, this would be for something that you think someone eats, let's say carp, or they eat a herring. They have terrible reaction. Their mouth swells up. They can't breathe. They need to take epinephrine. It becomes evident anyway, but this would be where the testing happens. And they're cross reactivities. You should be aware. Sometimes if you're allergic to one thing, you could be a little allergic for the other. Fish is in a category, but sometimes it could be one fish, it could be others. And these are things you'll have to be aware of, especially when it's reported out as there's a serious IgE problem. So my case of my herring, which is up here, if I'm seeing all these things like this, I'm going to be really uptight and know that, no, you can't, don't eat it, whatever you don't eat it. And I would order them an EpiPen to carry just in case. Again, this is not where the major component of ours looking is, but this is a component that you should be looking at and being aware of for someone who has significant allergies. The other is a report that we're looking is ICG. Now, this is the sensitivity. Remember, this is our sensitivity, and this is different. So this is, for example, showing, oh, there is some activity to rye. Wheat is a problem to a degree. Gliadin, the trigliadin, which is someone who's allergic to gluten. Yes, there too. Here's the gluten with it. It's pretty high. Emmer wheat, durum wheat, and it goes, and these tests go on and on with all these different things. But this is something now you're going to say to that patient, you're allergic to rye, to wheat, and gluten. So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest that you eat rye one day, wheat one, 4 days later, you can have some wheat, or tomorrow you can have wheat, don't eat rye for 4 days or something, which I said is not the best way to do this at all. What I would suggest is say, you're allergic to these things here, bang, bang, and you need to avoid these totally and get them some sort of knowledge or paper where any of these things may be. You could talk, obviously, you're talking about gluten, etc., and completely avoid these for a minimum of 6 months. Food allergies do change. They do change because it depends what you're exposed to. You can actually even change them being uptight and nervous and having a lot of stress. That could change them as well because it changes the immune response, and it does so quite readily. So about after 6 months of removing all these, then you can go back. Now let's take a patient who has, like, say, rheumatoid arthritis. Patient one has rheumatoid arthritis. They do have severe problem with pain in the joints, etc. We do the food test and we see this. You want to absolutely tell them to avoid it all, because then remember what I told you. Even if one day they decide, I'm just a little weak, that immune system, which is already hypersensitive, is now going to be diverted. It's going to be uploaded. It's going to be kicked to go to work again. The idea is keep everything quiet for a while. Let's take the opposite side. I treat a lot of cancer patients come from all over the world to see me. And I'll tell you about the course that you can look into as well. So if you have a cancer patient, for the most part, their issues lie in several areas. Inflammation, pretty much most of them have inflammation. They have immune deficiency. You have to find out where when you're treating. But with that, even those two saying that, knowing that allergy is going to inflame them and get inflammation, knowing that it's going to provoke the immune system. I ask you again, why in the world would you rotate a diet of these people? And the truth is, cancer doesn't come overnight, folks. Neither does rheumatoid. Cancer doesn't go from nothing to cancer overnight. It's 30 to 40 year process typically, unless there's a real toxic evident problem that occurs like radiation. So it happens within 10 years, but still it's not an overnight process to grow a cancer. So this process is over time. Why feed that process at all? So hopefully I've delivered you the concept of avoidance. Makes a lot more sense. This is actually a test from Access Laboratories. And of course, they're my go-to lab, always has been. Yes, I'm a consultant. Why shouldn't I say that? But the truth is, the test is easy. It's a little bit. It's 1 cc of blood in a serum separator tube. You could do whatever tests you want on it. It quickly is replaced and given back to you within 48 to 72 hours. And you have a lot of information to tell the patient. Is this for everybody? No. But if they have diseases and they're not responding to doctor rheumatologists and to oncologists, then you have to say, as the special person they're seeing, looking for something else, what else can I do? What could be there? What could be there? And one of the things, just something so simple would be helpful. And that is to literally just get these tests and to avoid them. This is my contact information. My email is here. You can use either this email or this email if you want. If you're more interested in immune responses, I teach the cancer course as a metabolic disease for Nova Southeastern University. October 14th and 15th, it is a certificate course. It is 2 full days. It is very heavy. When I tell you heavy, it is extreme amount of knowledge in 2 days. The course is called The Practical Guide to Novel Cancer Treatments. We literally talk about how to go about it. It is not about radiation, or it's not about chemo. It is not about surgery. It's about what you can do. And the things that I use, maybe some of them you can. I did write the only textbook in the world, intravenous, but there are so many practical things. We talk about nutrition. We talk about nutraceuticals that can be used. We talk about repurposed drugs, and wherever your license or capability follows, if you have true interest in helping patients. You're seeing a huge amount of increase in cancer patients currently. We're literally looking at a huge amount of cancers for many reasons I won't go into now. The ultrasonographers are all telling me now that patients are literally showing up in their 20s and 30s with cancer. We have to be so cognizant that the immune systems have been blunted. You want to have a conversation about anytime, you can call me. But if you are aware of that, you will be such a good practitioner for your clients, your patients, and that you will make a huge difference in them. If you don't, the question always is, who will? Let me go back now and back to this thing. I'll stop my screen sharing. and go back to this. So I think hopefully you'll be able to see me. And Emily, I know you might have questions at this moment, and I'll be glad to entertain whatever questions anybody has.
Amazing presentation, Dr. Mitch. Thank you so much for that again. And if you have about maybe 10, 15 minutes to do questions, we definitely have a group in here going. All right,
Thank
cool.
you. And I'm very happy to try to answer whenever I can. Go ahead.
Awesome. All right, let's hop in. I'll go ahead and pull them up. All right, so we'll just start at the top. Now, if I mispronounce this, I apologize, but Pyoderma gangrenosum, gluten sensitive based on stool testing, gluten free, but there's still ebbs and flows and severe cutaneous manifestations. What are your thoughts?
Easy. You should definitely do. There's a case where you should be doing food sensitivity. But remember, what I was talking about before, there's a spillover effect too. It may just not be wheat or gluten. It could even spill into milk. It could spill into corn. You could do it easily and say, I'm going to take out the fish, the corn, the wheat, the chocolate. They're the major allergens in food. We know that from kids. But why do that when it's so simple? Take a little bit of blood and you'll get and then avoid all of it. I would then encourage you to at least get these blood tests that I showed earlier. And I would also add into those blood tests, those that allow wear and tear to be much lower than repair, what we call youth or anabolic state, which means check the DHEA, the dehydroepiandrosterone, check the pregnenolone, and look at the inflammatory markers. I think you're going to get much further when you do. What you're doing is super. You just have to go a little bit further sometimes because people don't realize how complex we are. I don't know whoever did this, but they found that pretty much the human being has 863 trillion chemical reactions per second. So there is no way if we had 5,000 practitioners and scientists, we wouldn't be able to study 1 second of your life over our lifetime. So we have to do the best we can by taking categories and taking blood through this. And that would help us a lot. I hope that helps.
Oh, no, that's an awesome answer. It's fascinating too. All right, the next one we have is someone had noticed that EOE wasn't on the list of symptoms. Is there a link to food allergy /sensitivity /intolerance?
I think they're asking, is there some sort of link on the web to see the different symptoms? Is that what they're saying? I think. I'm not sure. The symptoms, let me start by saying the symptoms and signs. I didn't talk about signs of food allergy or allergy. I talked about symptoms. The food symptoms are so broad and everyone's so different. The most thing that you can help to compartmentalize this is if it's something that brings out a specific symptom like a rash or cough or something that you can actually see, you have to think of where these things occur. If somebody ingests something that gives them an allergic reaction, it's typically not going to be just on the right hand between the first and second digit. That's not usually the case. It'll be more generalized. If you, for example, see a rash running down the back of your hair, for example, it could be your shampoo, because as you wash off, it may drip down. So if you're asking for a specific link, it's easy to go online and ask for symptoms. Just go through 5 or 6 sites, and you're just going to have every symptom under the sun. There's no way of me putting every symptom on 5 slides because almost anything could jump, because anything that will affect an immune system is going to be actually a sign or symptom eventually back. So I think that's what they asked. If I'm wrong, just send it back to me.
I found good. The next one is, and some of these could have been answered during the presentation, but people are maybe hopping in and out, is do IgE allergies get resolved over time?
In lots of cases, yes. For example, you can have people that are severely allergic to peanut, for example, or chocolate, and they express it in something that's a harsh reaction, severe. And the question is, can you outgrow it? The answer is yes. But to really outgrow that, you have to reset the whole immune response. That is really important. You have to go back and reset the entire immune response. I'll give you an example that the folks watching are very clear. If you don't fix the microbiome or in the gut, you may never be able to reset that. If you don't get the hormones balanced, you may never be able to reset it because the hormones are in respect how two cells talk to each other. It's intracellular communication. So you want to be able to balance this whole immune system. If you do, remember what we do in conventional medicine, Emily, is if someone has an autoimmune disease or has a bad allergy, we tend to use things that drive it way down to shut it off. It doesn't sound physiologically correct when you think about that philosophically. What we should think of the word is, how do we modulate this immune system? If we have autoimmunity, we have hypersensitivity, allergy, how do we modulate it? How do we get it to go and relax? The only way to do that is to look at all ends of the spectrum. Is there inflammation? Get rid of the inflammation. Is there something wrong with the gut? Get rid of something in the gut. If you have hormones are abnormal, fix it. I mean, it's always a 360-degree view of the human being. Once that human being's in optimal health, the answer is yes. The IgG allergies can disappear. Some people say with age, I notice they just does because the immune system becomes less capable. And if it becomes less capable, it's like giving someone an immune suppressant. So if you fix all angles, then you'll be able to help that patient. And yes, they can get over it. It just takes time. It could take a year or two or three.
Yeah, great answer. Olga was wondering about insurances since they don't often cover the IgG testing because it's an experimental allergy testing. She is wondering where we can find evidence to prove they're wrong.
Yeah. Olga, I'm going to tell you how to prove anybody and everyone wrong. And thank you for that question. The answer is what I've done for more than 18 and a half years. I'm a total cash practitioner. I haven't taken an insurance in so long, I wouldn't know what to do with it. I don't have staff that need to do it. I know that I get paid for my knowledge. People come from all over. I have over 450 doctors that see me when they're sick. So for me as the doctor's doctor, I charge only cash. I do that for patients too. Patients that come to me are failed from anywhere in the United States. And guess what, Olga? If you're good at what you do, I'm going to assume that you are, then you deserve to be paid. If you want to wait for insurances or to convince them, good luck. It doesn't matter how much material you're going to give to the insurance company about, oh my gosh, here's the insurance. Here's our studies. I've been through this and I could tell we had hours. I would tell you stories for sure because I like telling the stories. You could show all the evidence, but what is their job? They don't care about health. It's that job. Theirs is you pay a premium. We need to keep this much of the premium and pay out only this much. So with that type of selfish secondary gain in mind, there is no way to do that. You want to get that? Sure, go get it. Show me what you got. I bet it's great. Try to get an appointment with a high-level person at an insurance company. I like what you said, Olga, because you sound to me like an idealistic person. I am too, but sometimes you have to sit down and be realistic. You got to say to these insurance companies, heck no. Just like you should be saying to certain treatments, heck no. I would insert worse than that, Emily, but you're sitting here citing. So that's what you need to do. All right. What's the next question?
Fair enough. You're getting a lot of preach and amens. I love that. All right. We have another question. What is the likelihood of autoimmune development with food sensitivities relative to food allergies? And after how long does this become a problem outcome for most people?
No one knows. But think about it this way. I always ask the question, which is another great clinical question you should always ask yourself. When a patient comes in, doctors are trained, dentists, podiatrists, chiropractic physicians, we're all trained if then. That's because of how our training is developed. If you get something, we do something about it. That is the dumbest way of working I've ever seen in my life. We should be looking at why. Ask WHY. Why does this person have this? And you're probably right. It's a multitude of things. It's not one thing. We showed that earlier in the discussion. So when you say that someone has blank, why do they have it? Did they get autoimmune? Autoimmunity can come from dozens of things. Let me just show you, and then I'll tell you that you should peel the onion. Remember that to remind me if I forget to say that. So how do you stick the immune system and keep poking that bear? Easy. Be in a room with young kids with a cold. Go take all these injections that they want to give you for every little single thing. Go ahead. I won't be behind you, but you go do that. Then go ahead and breathe in all the pollutants and that pesticides I showed before. And then go ahead and make sure you're stressed, because every single healthcare practitioner is always stressed. And then go ahead and use non-organic things, whatever you put on your skin, in 56 seconds, according to the EPA's in your bloodstream. Now you're getting the message, then radiation, then this caffeine and non-organic coffee. When you go on, I can do an hour of this. Toxic metals in the air. So eventually what happens is the immune system gets nudged so much, it does what you would do. Emily, if I stood there, pushed you, push you, sooner or later, you know what, Dr. Mitch? Bam, you hit me right in the face. They get the heck out of my face. And you know what? That's exactly what happens in the instant. Now, does that take 1 week? Probably not, because we're so resilient. God's made us so resilient. Is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a year? Depends on the aggressiveness of these irritants. And I wish I could tell you it's exactly what. And because we don't know that, as clinicians, we need to be treating immediately. When we get the case, you assume they've already had all these things constantly. If you live in the United States or outside the United States, in any industrialized nation, you are getting bombarded with stuff all the time. Anyway, that's my answer. I'm sorry I couldn't give you an exact, but yes, sooner or later, your immune system is going to go, I'm tired and sick of this. So you'll have food allergy, be hyper, then it will attack you. Once it becomes hyper, it could go and attack your own system. That's why there's 84 immune disease. That's why men are getting them as much as females. And some of them are ugly. The ones just to one organ, like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it's a pain in the neck. You can deal with it. What about rheumatoid, lupus, and good pastures? These things will kill the patient. So you need to be aware of that, and that allergy plays in.
Yeah, it's so scary and really important too to understand. Thank you. We'll do just a few more, tons of questions in there. I would say at least close to 40 so far. So we'll do about 3 more, and then we'll let Dr. Mitch go, and can also reach out further to the contact information that he graciously has shared. The next one is, would you consider monocytes for recovery of a recent infection?
Yeah. Monocytes typically will be one of the very first things. They're part of the phagocytic community of cleanup. So yes, they are part of the white blood cell community that's involved in finishing up these reactions and cleaning up the camp, so to speak. The problem is you probably will not see monocytic action in most allergy cases because it's ongoing and it's chronic and there is no cleanup. And once you enter this chronic, you may see some eosinophils, but I doubt you'll see much else that will help from the
Yeah.
disease.
All right. Yeah, no, good points. Okay, so this one is a good case study. It's looking so, given there's a high chance of leaky gut in cases of food allergies and sensitivities, to ensure patient compliance, especially with their favorite foods testing high, we often give L-glutamine and other supplements and herbs to help resolve one of the roots of their food challenges. To ensure greater patient compliance, not giving them a list of foods they've always loved to avoid. How successful do you think we can be if we give these supplements while they still rotate foods?
You won't be totally successful because, again, if this has anything to do with the immune challenge that you have. Now, if someone has leaky gut, until you close that leaky gut, you're leaking across. Basically, for those that are watching don't know, there is a coating to the bowel called IgA. It's one of our immunoglobulins. When that coating's not good enough, then the bowel will leak some of its content, even though it's microscopic amount, into the bloodstream. And basically, you're leaking the toxins into the bloodstream. What do you think the immune system is going to do? That it's going to attack like crazy. If you have that, and you also have the allergens to boot, you're taxing that immune system like crazy. Will the glutamine alone help? There's a deck both sides to glutamine. Yes, it will help close anything that's IgA aspiring, vitamin A, for example. There's many other things that you can use to help close the leaky gut syndrome, butyrate, etc. The problem is even supplements have a negative side to them. Like too much glutamate is a problem, because glutamine can become glutamate. Glutamate's a toxin. It's a brain toxin. It's also used by cancers to grow. So I would say, as much as it's tough for you to tell a patient, I know, I got it. But I think your duty as a practitioner to say to that patient, This is really what's best for you. They already had a immune problem from the leaky gut. They have an immune problem from whatever else. It's best not to just rotate that diet, because every other day or every day, you're still giving them something that immune system's diverting to. How can the immune system keep up with all this stuff? It can't.
That makes complete sense. All right. And then for our final question, I think this is a good way to close off, is talking about the test that you had mentioned, the low volume of the specimen collection. And they were curious if you could repeat if it can be done through a finger stick or if it's a venipuncture serum that's preferred. And if there's any differences in specimens when it comes to the food allergy and food sensitivity test.
Good. That's an easy ending for me, Emily. Thank you. It is a venipuncture. It's a very small amount. It's maybe a cc. It is in a serum separator tube. You still have to do what you do with a serum separator tube. It's got to be spun down accordingly. It's a very small amount of blood, and it is for sure easy to do both. You can literally, that one little tube, do both sides. So let's say, oh, I need the food testing and I need the food allergy and the food sensitivity. The answer is, yeah, you could do literally both in that one little tube. And if you believe that's appropriate, you should do that. And thank you for the two people at Des. It was a great presentation. Oh, Emily, did I do a good? Did people?
Oh,
you
you
know,
did amazing.
The point, look, I'm used to this. I teach so much. You didn't tell them their bio. I used to work for Jamie Foxx. I did his morning show. I'm nationally syndicated. I talk to 1 million people a week on the air, on television. I do this a lot, but the point is, I'm always concerned about the way we're taught in conventional system compared to what we really should be doing. You want to learn something? Relearn the Krebs cycle. Relearn physiology. That'll make you a great practitioner. You'll be better than 99% of the doctors that are out there. 99%. I hope you invite me back soon. God bless everyone. Please have a great day. Be healthy. Emily, call me when you get a chance. We'll talk more. And I really appreciate your allowing me. And thank you, Access Labs. I've been with them a long time. They do a fantastic job. And I know Rupa, uses them readily. They should. They're pretty much the best lab in the country when it comes to things of this nature. But God bless. Thank you.
Dr. Mitch said, and thank you so much for joining and taking the time today. As you can see from the group chat going on, just everyone's so grateful and such an amazing lecture. It was a fantastic presentation. A huge thank you to not only you, but the entire Access Medical team as well. We're so grateful. All right, everyone. Next, we're going to just transition.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. And to quickly showing you how to order these tests that Dr. Mitch went over and take advantage of Rupa. So we'll do a just little 10-minute overview. And Dr. Mitch, you're more than welcome to hop or stay. Whatever you decide is totally fine with us. All right. So for those who don't know or joined late, my name is Emily Osborne. I am the events lead here at Rupa Health. And we want to make sure you are set up for success when you're looking to place orders from one of our partners, like the amazing Access Medical. Now, this presentation, again, it is being recorded, so we will send it out so that everyone can see this part of it as well, but also Dr. Mitch's presentation along with his slides. And then if you have other questions, he did graciously give that contact info as well. Cool. So in a nutshell, Rupa Health is a one centralized platform for practitioners to order over 30 different specialty and basic blood work labs all in one place. So being partnered with numerous lab companies, Rupa is known mostly as a one-stop shop. So from beginning to end, we actually take care of the entire lab work experience. So not only making it super streamlined and quick and easy to place and track your orders with just one login, we're both practitioner and patient facing. So plus we also handle the patient support, and it's completely free to sign up. So I'm going to share my screen and show you just how easy it is to place an order on Rupa. And if anyone can't see, please let me know. Righty. And then I'll also answer any Q&As at the end too. So be sure to hang around, maybe throw them in the chat and I'll try to grab them at the end as well. Alrighty. So this is the dashboard. Now, again, with one login, you're able to track and place all of your orders. You have a nice overview. If you have multiple practitioners and I'm an admin coming in, you can see everything in one place. But let's just go ahead and see how quick and easy it is to actually place an order. So all you need is your patient's first name, last name, and an email address. And that's it. We actually register and do everything patient information wise for you. So this is the order queue. On the right-hand side is the cart where you can make adjustments. And then on the left-hand side is where the tests live. Now, we do have a lab test catalog where you can go in and search for all the different testing here, like a CBC. It'll come up with all the different options. But in your lab order queue, you actually have your favorites floating at top. So whether that is a bundle of labs that you have favorited, and that means that it's a little pink heart right here, and that does include one lab company or multiple lab companies. If you do a patient one tier Rupa bundle test, you can just easily click it once and it's going to come all into the cart on the right hand side. But you also have your individualized favorited tests too. So you'll see right here, I'm going to go ahead and pick that. Let's do the allergy IgE test. So when I click it, you'll see just quickly added on the right hand side. And from there, if I wanted to go ahead and send it patient, I just click send patient and that's it. So literally 3 seconds of click and movement. But let's go ahead and see different ways that you can adjust the order. So if you wanted to change, if I was an admin doing different orders for different practitioners, I can adjust that here. Or if the patient's on vacation, I can send these out a month after once they're home. I can adjust a lot of our kits we can do in office. We can do drop ship for all of our lab tests and send them directly to the patients. Now, we are in the US right now, we are working to be international. And we recently actually were able to work with New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island for certain lab tests. And we were pretty excited to have those restrictions done too. So check in with us if you have any questions there. But another couple of things that you can do is I have my follow-up fee already included in here. Maybe I see a patient and I say, hey, I don't want to do anything with billing. I'd like Rupa to do the billing options for my patient. I can go ahead and include that as well. So let's talk about pricing. So we do offer the wholesale price, which is the practitioner price to patients. Now, what that means is that patients will often actually save a lot of money not using the retail price that can be offered otherwise. So the way that Rupa makes some money to be able to have this amazing platform and product is we just do a 7% service fee. So for this example, you'll see that the patient's total is $282.48 and that the Rupa service fee was $18.48. Now, this does cover all the patient support. If there's specimen issues, if we have to resend kits, if the patient reaches out and says, hey, I'm unsure how to prep for this test, I have a question here, we can handle all of that for you. Anything that the practitioner doesn't need to specifically answer in a special case, we can do it for you. Now, we do bill the patient by default. The patient's going to have a few different options for payment. They can pay with their HSA, FSA accounts, a 3-month payment plan, no installation or pre-approval. Our patients really appreciate that. If you wanted to pay for the patient's order and maybe bill them to your discretion, you can do that as well. Either way, we do support these ways of payment. You can also include notes to patient if you want them to stop taking a supplement a week ahead of time, or notes to Rupa. One that I really like is we have a searchable ICD-10 code database. So what that means, we don't take insurance up front because many of the specialty labs, insurance does not pay for it front. However, because we actually offer that wholesale price, that's going to ensure the patient gets that lowest price possible. And then we can go ahead and create a super bill for the patient, which is really great. Then they can return that into their insurance for retroactive reimbursement if they were going to get it. No sending a second bill and it's going to be $1,000 more than anticipated. We really find that this is super helpful with patient compliancy and really helps them financially as well. All right. And a couple things too in here I wanted to know. I love this really easy feature, the little I button. So that means the details section. So if I click on that, it gives an overview of the test, the pricing, the sample type, phlebotomy. If you want to look at the patient collection instructions, by the way, we've made cheat sheets for every test that we have. Sample report, and then my favorite is the biomarker. So you get this just clean list of biomarkers that you know exactly what you're ordering for your patient so you can have the best response that you need. All right, so we went over the details quickly. We have over 3,000 different tests in our lab test catalog, everything in one place. So once we hit send to patient, we actually reach out to the patient, get their information, do the billing for you, super bills if they want. We send them cheat sheets on how to complete the test they order, and then you actually get alerted when the results are in. So if I go back to my dashboard, and I'm just going to pull up, let's see, we'll do a results in. I'm not going to do me as a practitioner, but maybe we'll find one that all the results are in. Okay, Dr. Robertson's patient. So when I click on the details icon right here, it's going to go ahead and go over which results are in, which ones we're still waiting on payment for, all of that information. I do want to note we actually send them phlebotomy options that's closest to their area as well. So that's a really big challenge that's checked off that you don't have to worry about too. All right, so once the results are in, you'll see that I have multiple labs from multiple lab companies in here. I can go ahead and resend them a kit or instructions email. I can go ahead and take a look, create a result summary. Now, this patient result summary is basically just a summary that's a lot more digestible with ranges easier for practitioners and patients. So that way, if you get a report that's 50 pages long, this creates a nice, clean, much more, again, digestible option for you and your patients. All right, awesome. A couple things. Now, we have a lot of product and awesome features that we offer with Rupa, but one that I want to pull up specifically is learn about labs. Now, we have, as we did this webinar live class today, we also have a lot of different things in a reference guide. We have lots of classes that we've done that are free. All these options are free except the boot camps. But what's great about the boot camps is that they are a 6-week deep dive class for you. And you actually get your own test that it's going over for the amount of the test, which includes the actual course itself. You'll see this one, Dr. Curie Jones is coming to do the PMS to PCOS using the Dutch Complete test. That'll come up on September 4th. Our practitioners absolutely love our boot camps because they really get to learn just about a test inside and out, and it's super helpful for them. We also have different ways, just because we have so many amazing lab partners and tests in our platform, just a better way to actually find all the educational resources. So you can search, you can look at it from different types of testing. If you wanted to compare all the autoimmune tests by the lab companies, see our popular tests. I really compare test charts because it actually pulls up multiple tests from multiple lab companies. And so you can see maybe pricing or turnaround time or shipment or phlebotomy options. Maybe you have a patient who only has 1 week to prep versus a month. So you need to find that test that has the available biomarkers that fits into that category too. And you can also compare your own tests and build out your own chart. As you see here, we have this lovely live class library where this will actually be posted in as well to watch anytime, and they're free. We have protocols, the magazine, and our Root Cause Medicine podcast. So just the leading innovators of this space in different resourceful ways that come in, and we want to make sure we share that and educate our practitioners on it as well. And then the bundle library, these practitioners also can create bundles that if you want to use them for your own clinic or you want to create your own, maybe you have your own metabolic comprehensive panel, you always do on patient one. It's really easy to do here. All right, cool. So we had to learn about labs. I'm going to pop back into the dashboard. And you'll see here, again, a few options on the left-hand side. One I like to point out is we do support not only individual practitioners. If you're a one-person show and you're the admin and operations and overseeing patients, you will definitely really be grateful for our admin help here. You have your own personal support team right here. We also support multi-prac clinics, which has been really helpful. If you have a clinic admin who oversees all the practitioners' tests for patients, you can invite team members, adjust notifications, your billing, look up phlebotomy that's in an area for a patient, or include your own phlebotomist if maybe you do draws in-house. Another thing that we offer is lab shops, which this is basically where you can create a custom e-commerce page to reach more of your community or do an educational program. And you'll see here a lot of different options too. Now, we are happy to go ahead and answer any questions that you have. Again, one-stop shop, have everything taken care of for you, and it's free to sign up and usually utilize. Our head of practitioner partnerships, this is Adrian Martinez, and he is happy to answer any further questions that you have. You can reach him at adrian@rupahealth.com or his number right here, and he's more than happy to jump on a detailed demo or someone else for the team. We can as well, just because we have so many options. It's hard to go through it in 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. Let's see. Someone did ask, when will this presentation be posted again? So under that live class area, it will live in rupahealth.com, but we're also going to go ahead and email the slides and the recorded presentation to you so that you'll have it. And it's usually in between 2 and 3 days. All right. And someone asks, any news if we have patients in New Jersey and New York as well. So we have had some restrictions lifted. Our team has been working super hard to have this as an option. So we now do have some tests and lab test companies that we're partnered with that you can order for patients within those 3 states. So we are on a little bit of a pause. So we are looking to fully launch LabCorp and Quest as well. We've been working on this to build it out. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you're on our email list or sign up and we'll make sure to give that information. There'll be like a little announcement. All right. Someone said, if we bundle maybe 3 lab tests, do we have to pay the physician services fee for each individual test? Great question. So physician services, for anyone who maybe isn't aware yet. So if you are maybe a practitioner who is in a state that doesn't accept your type of licensing, maybe like the ND is not affiliated with that state yet, we have something called physician services that you can apply for, where you have a signing physician to oversee and go ahead and let you recommend the testing to your clients. So someone had asked, is there a fee associated with that for each individual test? So it is on the test order, the fee. And if you do, maybe I believe it's a $25 fee, but we can get more information on that as well. How can I find stool tests for New York? That's a great question. Let me pull this up. So I'm not sure which tests, New York tests allow stool tests, but we do have like a New York link that can show you the test that you can go ahead and order for. And something that's really cool too, let me actually share my screen and show this. Alrighty. So when you click on, if I go to that lab test catalog and you click on the details icon or the little eye icon on there, it's going to show you, sorry, I have so many Zoom buttons up. It's going to show you if it's allowed state-wise. So you'll see here for this example, New York is allowed with a waiver. New Jersey is never allowed, and Rhode Island is allowed with a waiver as well. And you can continue to learn more about that. So that's going to be in each individual test. Good question. All right. So I'll take, here we go, a couple more. Thanks, Sybil, for jumping in. Yes, I love that. All right. Awesome. All right. So thank you all again. Oh my gosh, what an amazing presentation that we got to enjoy today by Dr. Mitch. Again, if you have any questions or you want to do a more detailed demo, please reach out to us, Adrian@rupahealth.com, or you can go to www.rupahealth.com and sign up, and you'll get a personal, let's say, assistant to help you onboard and make sure we get you all set up. But again, thank you everyone for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to spend time with you all, and we hope to see you again very soon, hopefully in our future live classes and webinars. But other than that, I hope you have the best Wednesday and a wonderful rest of your week. Halfway there. Thank you all.